I betrayed my husband with his friend. Reddit family tales. I thought my marriage was a fortress, but one sultry glance set it ablaze. His words didn't just tempt me, they ignited a fire I couldn't quench. This is one of those Reddit family tales that'll sear your heart, a true infidelity story dripping with desire and danger. If you crave drama that pulses with raw emotion and forbidden sparks, smash that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to Livia for more scorching tales that unravel the wild, untamed edges of love and betrayal. I'm Nora Delaney, 33, a pastry chef in Willow Creek, Tennessee, where the air hums with honeysuckle and secrets. 9 years ago, I married Evan Walsh, a software developer whose quiet strength and sly grin stole my breath. Evan was my everything, his deep laugh, his hazel eyes that burned when he looked at me, his habit of sneaking into my kitchen to steal a taste of my lavender macarons. Our life was a sweet dream, a cozy bungalow with a garden bursting with herbs, late-night dance parties in the living room, plans for a baby, and a future painted in hope. I believed in loyalty, in a love that could conquer all. But this is my cheating story. One of those Reddit family tales that starts with a whisper and ends in a storm. Our marriage wasn't flawless, though. Evan's job chained him to his computer, his late nights swallowing the passion we once had. I poured my heart into my bakery, crafting desserts that sang, but a sultry loneliness crept in, a craving for the fire we'd lost. We still loved each other, fiercely, but our spark had dimmed, replaced by schedules and silences. I didn't know how much I yearned to be desired until a backyard barbecue turned my world to ash, igniting a true infidelity story that would haunt me. The barbecue was a sultry July affair, our garden alive with fairy lights and the sizzle of burgers. Evan's college buddy, Caleb Reed, had just rolled back into Willow Creek, his return like a lightning bolt. Caleb was pure heat, tall, with a rogue smile and eyes that could unravel you. I'd known him vaguely from our engagement party, but now he was a force, his charisma setting the night ablaze. As I served my raspberry tarts, he leaned close, his voice a low purr. "Nora, you're a damn sorceress with these," he said, his gaze locking onto mine, a spark that sent shivers down my spine. I laughed, but my skin flushed, a dangerous heat pooling in my core. That moment was a fuse, lit and burning. Caleb joined our town's mural project, and we started working together, sketching designs under the summer sun. His energy was electric, his questions about my passions, my baking, my dream of a cookbook, stoking a fire I'd buried. "You're a wildfire, Nora," he said one afternoon, his voice husky, his fingers brushing mine as we painted. My breath hitched, his words a match to my kindling. This wasn't just a Reddit family tale, it was ablaze, and I was letting it spread. I told myself it was harmless, a flirtation I could control. Caleb was Evan's friend, a line I wouldn't cross. But our moments grew charged, stolen glances at project meetings, late-night texts about art and dreams that felt too intimate. "You're meant to burn bright," he wrote once, and I stared at the screen, my pulse racing, guilt and desire warring in my veins. I'd reply with wit, deflecting, but the heat was undeniable, a pull I couldn't resist. I'd lie awake, the Willow Creek breeze whispering through the curtains, and scribble in my journal, tucked under my pillow. "I love Evan, but Caleb sets me alight. What am I becoming?" I'd devour Reddit cheating stories in the dark, swearing I'd never be that wife. But my heart was straying, and the guilt was a flame I couldn't douse. The first twist came at a town festival in August, the air thick with funnel cakes and starlight. Evan was stuck at a coding sprint, so I went with Caleb, telling myself it was just a group outing. We wandered the neon-lit stalls, his arm brushing mine, his laugh a low rumble that sent sparks through me. "You're dangerous out here, Nora," he said, his eyes smoldering, his hand lingering as he handed me a caramel apple. My body hummed, the line between right and wrong dissolving. "We're friends," I whispered, but my voice trembled, and his smirk said he knew better. The festival's pulse matched my own, a warning I ignored. Guilt became my shadow, stalking me home. I'd bake Evan's favorite pecan pie, curl into his arms, but my mind was with Caleb, replaying his touch, his voice. I started weaving lies, extramural meetings, late bakery shifts, to steal moments with him, my heart pounding with every deception. Evan sensed the shift, his eyes narrowing one night. "You're different, Nora," he said, his voice soft but sharp. "What's going on?" I forced a laugh, my throat tight. "Just busy," I lied, but his gaze pierced me, a flicker of suspicion igniting. I wanted to confess, to douse this fire before it consumed us, but fear silenced me. What if he walked away? I wrote in my journal, "I'm betraying him, and it's killing me." But Caleb's in my blood. This was a true infidelity story, raw and reckless. The next twist hit at a Labor Day bonfire. Caleb was there, his presence a furnace, drawing me in. Evan was distracted, joking with neighbors, while Caleb and I ended up alone by the fire, the flames dancing in his eyes. "I can't pretend anymore," he said, his voice a growl, stepping so close I felt his heat. "I want you, Nora. Tell me you don't feel this." My heart roared, every nerve screaming to give in, but loyalty clawed me back. "I'm married," I hissed, my voice cracking. "This stops now." He leaned closer, his breath on my neck, and for a heartbeat, I swayed toward him. But I pulled back, the fire's crackle drowning my thoughts, and fled to Evan's side, my skin burning with shame and want. I tried to extinguish it, skipping mural meetings, ignoring Caleb's texts. But the silence was torture, a void where his fire used to be. Evan tried harder, planning a candlelit dinner, his touch a reminder of the man I loved. But Caleb's words haunted me, a siren song I couldn't mute. I wrote, "I'm drowning in desire, and I'm dragging Evan down with me. I have to end this." This wasn't just a cheating wife story, it was a war between my heart and my vows. The next twist came in September, during a thunderstorm. Caleb showed up at the bakery, rain-soaked, his eyes wild. "I'm leaving Willow Creek," he said, his voice urgent. "But I can't go without you knowing I'm in love with you." The words were a lightning strike, electrifying and devastating. My body ached to close the distance, to taste the forbidden, but Evan's face flashed in my mind. "I love Evan," I said, my voice trembling, tears mixing with the rain. "You need to go." He stepped closer, his hand grazing my cheek, and for a moment, I leaned into his touch, the storm raging outside. But I pushed him away, my heart shattering, and he left, the door slamming shut. I sank to the floor, sobbing, the rain a mirror to my chaos. I cut Caleb off completely, deleting his number, quitting the mural project. But the damage was done, my lies, my distance, had carved a chasm between me and Evan. One night, he confronted me, his voice breaking. "Nora, what's happening? You're slipping away." My heart pounded, the truth clawing at me. I wanted to confess, to save us, but fear choked me. "It's nothing," I lied, hating myself. He nodded, but his eyes were dark with doubt, and I knew time was running out. I wrote, "I'm burning us down, and I don't know how to stop." This Reddit family tale was a fire I'd started, and it was consuming everything. The final twist of this part came at a fall market. Caleb was there, his departure delayed, his presence a spark in the crisp air. I avoided him, clinging to Evan, but our eyes locked across the stalls, a current I couldn't break. After the market, I stepped away for air, the stars blazing above. Caleb followed, his voice low. "I'm leaving tomorrow," he said, "but I'll never stop wanting you." I shook my head, tears streaming. "I choose Evan," I said, my voice fierce. "Go." He nodded, his eyes pained, but as he walked away, I felt a resolve ignite, to tell Evan the truth, to fight for us, no matter the cost. The Tennessee air turned crisp, the Willow Creek hills glowing with autumn's fire, but no warmth could pierce the inferno of my guilt. Caleb's parting words at the fall market, "I'll never stop wanting you," burned in my veins, a searing reminder of the emotional affair I'd let blaze out of control. I'd chosen Evan, my husband, vowing to fight for our marriage, but the lies I'd spun to hide my connection with Caleb were a smoldering ember, threatening to ignite everything I held dear. Evan's growing suspicion, his shadowed glances, fanned the flames of my resolve to confess, but fear was a chokehold, strangling my courage. This is one of those Reddit family tales that scorches the soul, a true infidelity story of desire, deception, and the desperate fight to reclaim love. If this drama's got your heart racing, smash that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to Livia for more blazing tales that unravel the wild, untamed edges of passion and betrayal. The days after the market were a fevered haze, each moment a battle between guilt and the ghost of Caleb's touch. I threw myself into my bakery, kneading dough with a ferocity that couldn't quiet my thoughts, while at home, I played the devoted wife, my smiles masking a heart on fire. Evan was trying, leaving me flirty notes, pulling me close for a slow dance in the kitchen, but his warmth was tinged with doubt, his hazel eyes searching mine for truths I hadn't shared. I'd kiss him, bake his favorite macarons, but Caleb's voice echoed, a sultry whisper I couldn't silence. At night, I'd clutch my journal, hidden under the bed, and scrawl in the dark, I love Evan, but I betrayed him. I have to tell him, or this will burn us down. I'd stopped reading Reddit cheating stories, their raw judgments cut too close, mirroring my own shame. The first twist came a week later when a text from Caleb lit up my phone, despite my vow to cut him off. I'm still in town, it read, his words a spark in dry grass. One last talk, Nora. Please. My pulse thundered, desire and dread colliding like a storm. He was leaving, shouldn't that end it? But his plea was a siren's call, tugging at the fire he'd ignited. I wanted to delete it, to douse this flame, but my fingers trembled, betraying me. I replied, my voice a whisper in my head, no, Caleb. It's done. His response was a low burn. You can't deny this heat. You feel it too. I slammed my phone down, the screen's glow a taunt, and shoved it in a drawer, but his words were embers, smoldering in my core. This wasn't just a cheating wife story, it was a blaze I'd let flare, and it was scorching me alive. Evan's suspicion grew, a dark current beneath his efforts to reconnect. He'd linger in the doorway, watching me frost cakes, his questions sharper. Late night at the bakery again, he'd ask, his tone casual but his eyes piercing. I'd nod, my lies piling like kindling, each one a betrayal of the man I loved. One night, I tried to bridge the gap, lighting candles, pouring wine, my hands shaking as I served his favorite risotto. We need to talk, I said, my voice soft but urgent. He leaned back, his gaze guarded. I'm listening, he said, but his tone was cool, a wall I couldn't breach. I've been distant, I started, my heart pounding. I think we've lost something. He nodded, his jaw tight. I feel it too, Nora. But I don't know what you're hiding. Hiding? The word was a spark, igniting my fear. I wanted to confess, to extinguish this lie, but the thought of his pain stopped me and the moment burned out, leaving us in silence. The next twist hit at a community art walk in October, the town aglow with lanterns and music. Caleb was there, his departure stalled by a mural contract, his presence a wildfire I couldn't escape. I clung to Evan, my arm looped through his, but Caleb's eyes found mine across the crowd, a smoldering challenge. After the walk, as Evan chatted with a neighbor, Caleb cornered me by a gallery wall, his voice a low growl. I'm leaving soon, he said, his gaze searing. But I can't let you go without knowing you feel this. My body hummed, every nerve alive with his nearness, but I stepped back, my voice fierce. I'm Evan's, Caleb. Stop. He leaned closer, his breath hot on my cheek, and for a heartbeat, I swayed, the air electric. But I pushed past him, my skin aflame, and caught Evan watching, his face a mask of hurt. My stomach twisted, had he seen? The guilt was a furnace now, consuming me. I stopped all contact with Caleb, deleting his texts, quitting the mural project, but his heat lingered, a phantom I couldn't banish. Evan's efforts intensified. A surprise date to the hills, a note in my apron, "You're my fire, Nora." But his trust was fraying, his touches hesitant. I wanted to be his again, to douse this betrayal, but Caleb's words were a pulse in my blood. I wrote in my journal, "I'm betraying him with every breath. I have to tell him, or we'll turn to ash." This was one of those Reddit family tales where the heart betrays before the body, and I was losing myself in the flames. The tension surged when I overheard Evan on a call, his voice low, strained. "She's pulling away," he said. I don't know what to do. My heart sank. Was he talking about me? To whom? I didn't dare ask, but the doubt was a mirror reflecting my lies. I tried to confront it, asking him one night, "Are we okay, Evan?" He sighed, his eyes dark. "I don't know, Nora. I feel you slipping, and I'm scared." Scared. The word was a blade, cutting through my resolve. I wanted to confess, to save us, but fear of losing him choked me. I nodded, my throat tight, and let the moment pass, the silence a spark waiting to ignite. The next twist came when I found a note in my bakery locker, Caleb's handwriting a dagger. "I leave tomorrow. Meet me at the river one last time." My breath caught. Tomorrow. The finality was a cold splash, but his words were a flame, pulling me under. I shouldn't have gone, but I did, telling myself it was to end it. He stood by the river, rain-soaked, his eyes burning. "I love you, Nora," he said, his voice raw. "Run away with me." The words were a thunderclap, shattering my defenses. My body ached to say yes, to dive into his fire, but Evan's face, his laugh, his love, held me back. "I'm Evans," I said, tears streaming. "Go." He stepped closer, his hand brushing my jaw, and I froze, the rain blurring my vision. But I turned away, my heart breaking, and ran, the river's roar drowning my sobs. Back home, Evan's suspicion was a storm. He'd found my journal, left open in my haste. "What's this about Caleb?" he asked, his voice a low rumble, holding the page where I'd written of my guilt. My heart stopped. I could lie, but the fire was too hot, the truth too heavy. "I didn't cheat physically," I said, my voice shaking. "But I felt something for him. I'm sorry." Evan's face shattered, his eyes blazing with pain. "Why wasn't I enough?" he asked, his voice a broken whisper. The question was a torch, burning away my excuses. He walked out, the door slamming, and I sank to the floor, the rain outside a mirror to my ruin. This wasn't just a true infidelity story. It was a reckoning, and I was facing it alone. The days that followed were a smoldering limbo. Evan stayed with a colleague, texting only about practicalities, bills, bakery orders. I threw myself into work, but every tart I baked was tainted by his absence. I stopped checking Reddit, the cheating stories too raw, and wrote instead, pages of pleas. "I love you, Evan. I broke us, but I'll fight for us." The guilt was ablaze, but so was the realization that my betrayal wasn't just about Caleb. It was about the passion I'd let fade with Evan, the fire I'd failed to stoke. The final twist of this part came when I found a voicemail from Evan, left at 2 a.m. "Nora," his voice was rough, aching. "I read your journal. I want to believe you, but trust is gone. I'll be home tomorrow. We need to talk." My heart surged, hope and fear colliding. Home. Tomorrow. I played the message again, his voice a spark in the dark, but trust was a wound I'd inflicted. I spent the day baking, cleaning, as if a perfect home could heal us, but inside, I was ash, haunted by the truth. I'd burned him, and we might never recover. The Tennessee rain turned to a bitter chill, the Willow Creek nights sharp with frost, but no cold could douse the inferno of my guilt. Evan's voicemail, "I want to believe you, but trust is gone. I'll be home tomorrow. We need to talk," was a flickering ember of hope, but it couldn't extinguish the blaze of my betrayal. I'd confessed to him about Caleb, about the emotional affair that had set our marriage ablaze, but his absence left me scorched. teetering between redemption and ruin. His question, "Why wasn't I enough?" was a brand on my soul, a searing truth that my failure to stoke our fire had driven me to Caleb's heat. I loved Evan, but I'd let another man's desire ignite a part of me I'd buried, and now I was fighting to save what we had or burn trying. This is one of those Reddit family tales that chars the heart, a true infidelity story of passion, pain, and the fierce will to rise from ashes. If this drama's got your pulse pounding, smash that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to Livia for more searing tales that unravel the wild, untamed edges of love and betrayal. Evan's return loomed, and the night before was a fever of dread and determination. I paced the bungalow, my journal a silent witness to my unraveling, its pages heavy with confessions I hadn't dared voice. I'd hurt Evan not with my body, but with my soul, letting Caleb's fire consume a space that belonged to my husband. The kitchen, once alive with our laughter, felt like a tomb, my lavender macarons untouched on the counter. I wanted to be his again, to rebuild our flame, but the truth was a wildfire I couldn't control. I'd read Reddit cheating stories, scoffed at their recklessness, but now I was the reckless one, my heart a battleground of guilt and hope. I sat on the porch, the frost glinting under the stars, and wrote, "I burned him, and I burned us. Can I kindle something new?" The question was a plea, unanswered in the dark. The first twist came when Evan walked in, his face etched with exhaustion, his hazel eyes a storm of hurt and resolve. We sat in the living room, the fairy lights dim, my chili cold on the table. "Tell me everything," he said, his voice a low growl raw with pain. "Why him? Why not fight for us?" The questions were a torch illuminating my shame. I took a breath, my hands trembling, and poured out the truth, the loneliness, the drift, Caleb's seductive words, my weakness. "It wasn't love," I said, tears scalding my cheeks. "It was me, craving fire I thought we'd lost. I'm sorry." Evan's gaze bored into me, his jaw clenched, his eyes glistening. "I gave you everything," he said, his voice cracking. "And you chose him." Chose. The word was a lash, and I flinched, my heart breaking. This wasn't just a cheating wife story, it was a wound we both bled from. The conversation burned through the night, a crucible of raw truth. Evan admitted his own failures, his endless work, his blindness to my fading spark. "I should have fought harder," he said, his voice heavy. "But you lit a fire with him, Nora. How do I trust that's out?" The question was a spark, igniting my fear. I begged for a chance, my voice fierce. "I'm yours, Evan. I'll prove it." He looked at me, his eyes a battleground of love and doubt, and nodded, but his touch was absent. He slept in the guest room, the door a barrier, and I lay awake, the frost creeping through the windows, my journal open but silent. I wrote, "I love him, but I broke him. Can we reignite?" This true infidelity story was a test of whether love could rise from ashes. The days that followed were a smoldering tension, a dance of hope and hesitation. Evan was home, but his presence was a shadow, his laughter gone. We moved through routines, breakfast, work, small talk, but the chasm between us yawned. I suggested counseling, and he agreed, a fragile step toward healing. But every night, he retreated to the guest room, and I'd sit by the kitchen counter, tracing the notes he'd once left, my heart aching for the man I'd lost. I wrote apologies I didn't send. "I'm sorry, Evan. I'll burn for you, if you'll let me." The frost thickened, a mirror to our frozen trust, but I clung to the ember of possibility, determined to fan it into flame. The next twist came when I got a call from Tessa, a friend from the mural project. "Caleb's gone," she said, her voice soft. "But he left something for you at the cafe." My stomach twisted. Gone. The finality was a cold wind, but her words stirred a dangerous curiosity. Against my better judgment, I went to the cafe, finding a note in Caleb's scrawl. "Nora, I loved you, and I'm sorry." Live fiercely with Evan. My breath caught, tears burning. Loved. Past tense. A closure I hadn't sought, but it fanned a new fire, a resolve to fight for my marriage, to prove I'd chosen right. I tore the note, scattering it in the trash, and wrote in my journal, "Caleb's gone, but his shadow lingers. I have to burn it away for Evan." The guilt was a relentless blaze, but so was my determination. I poured myself into small acts, baking Evan's favorite tarts, planning a stargazing night, but his responses were guarded, his trust a flickering flame. One evening, I found his laptop open, a tab on rebuilding after betrayal. My heart sank. He was trying, but the word betrayal was a scar I'd carved. I wanted to talk, to bridge the inferno between us, but fear of his rejection held me back. What if he decided I wasn't worth it? I wrote, "He's fighting, but I'm the one who burned us. I have to earn his fire." This Reddit family tale was a crucible, forging me anew or breaking me forever. The tension surged when Evan proposed a weekend at the lake, a place where we'd once made love under the stars. "We need to face this," he said, his voice steady but strained. Together, my heart soared, hope and dread colliding. The lake a chance to rekindle, or a final spark to end us. We packed, the silence heavy, and drove, the water's shimmer a stark contrast to our turmoil. At the cabin we talked, the firelight casting shadows. Evan bared his pain, his voice raw. "I see him in you, Nora. It kills me." I cried, admitting my shame, my love. "I chose you," I said, my voice fierce. "I'll keep choosing you." He nodded, his eyes softening, but the distance remained, a flame we couldn't yet share. We left closer, but not whole, the wound still raw. Back home, we started counseling, a weekly inferno of truth. Evan spoke of his fear, his guilt for letting work dull our spark. I shared my loneliness, my failure to fight for us. The sessions were brutal, but they were a forge, reshaping us. We began small rituals, baking together, walking the creek, sharing dreams like we used to. But Caleb's shadow lingered, a question in Evan's eyes. Could he trust me again? I wrote, "I'm earning him, but it's a slow burn. Is it enough?" This true infidelity story wasn't about a single betrayal, it was about the labor of rebuilding from ash. The final twist came when I found a letter in our mailbox, no return address. Caleb's handwriting, a final ember. "Nora, I was wrong to tempt you. Fight for Evan, he's your fire." My eyes burned, a mix of relief and resolve. I didn't show Evan, burning the letter in the sink, its ashes a vow to my husband. But it sparked a fierce clarity. I'd reclaim our love, not with revenge, but with truth, with work, with a fire that burned for Evan alone. I sat in the garden, the frost melting under the dawn, and wrote, "I betrayed him, but I'll rise for him. Can we forge something stronger?" This Reddit family tale wasn't over, but it was a turning point, a chance to rekindle, or a farewell to the love we'd known. Now, I'm here, in this quiet bungalow, fighting for Evan's trust, for the spark we can rebuild. I don't know if he'll fully forgive me, or if Caleb's heat will always linger. But I know I'll burn for Evan with every breath, every choice, every day. Was I wrong to let Caleb's fire in? Or was the real betrayal not fighting for Evan sooner? Should I keep stoking this flame, or let it die to forge something new? I don't have answers, but maybe you do. What would you do? Fight for love, seek a subtle revenge, or rise above the ashes? Share your thoughts below. I read every one, and your words might light my way through this true infidelity story that's redefined my life. If this story's set your heart ablaze, smash that like button, comment, and subscribe to Livia for more Reddit family tales that ignite the soul.